Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are one of the group from 3A class and today we would like to explain or present our presentation about characters in drama. So before we started, let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Risa Astuti as a moderator and then we have our members of the group. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nurul.
My name is Hana Suci.
My name is Azkia Hidayat.
My name is Irma Putri.
And my name is Dika.
And then for the next slide, please. Here are the contents that we would like to explain. The first one is about the characters, and then the second one is the example of the character itself. So without any further ado, the first points will be explained by Khoirunnisa. Khoirunnisa, time is yours.
Okay, thanks to the moderator. Here, I will explain about character. What are characters? Character is a fictional creation or fictional nature created by dramatists and novelists, which can be judged in terms of characterization. Previously, it was also discussed that in the drama there is no narration and description, which is in the drama. There is my sound. Okay. Previously, it was also discussed that in the drama there is no narration and description, which in the drama focus more on character. In the sense that the scriptwriter creates the character with the action, ideas, and attitudes of the game. A character in a drama A character in a drama is a character created by another character. So, characters talk about each other and characters talk about themselves. Okay, next. Okay, motivation. Then, the most basic thing in discussing character is motivation. That how do they behave in different situation, how do they behave from one another in their behavior when sharing the same situation, and how does the action translate into the time, so that the answering this question we attempt to analyze the character in terms of their action. As a character is usually two things for certain reason. We as critics have every right and duty to analyze character motivation. A few of the most common motivation are as follows. The first is hope for reward. A character has desires to bring happiness and prosperity to himself or to those whom he loves. This is reflected, for example, in the character of Walter Lee in Hansberry Rising in the Sun. Here, Walter Lee is willing to do anything, such as risk insurance money in a liquor store, as he really wants to bring prosperity and wealth to his family. Next. Okay, for the second motivation character is love. A character is motivated to do a certain action because of the love which he has, the love which he wants, or the love that someone has for him, and also his love to himself. This is well described, for example, in Ibsen's Ghost. Here, Mrs. Alving, the mother, sacrificed herself to be wife of her beloved son in order to give a better life for him. For the third is fear of failure. A character is motivated to do a certain action because he fears that he will be cursed if it can also because he has been threatened with it or tutor if he does not do as he has been told. This motivation is possessed by the character Blanche in a streetcar named Desire. She tells lies to her sister in order to gain her sister's sympathy toward her, and if she tells the world that she thinks that her sister will leave her. And the fourth is religious feelings. The character acts out of deep feelings and confession that he is acting as God so direct. In A Rising in the Sun, this motivation is well represented by Lena Younger, as he believes that every conduct should be done in the name of God. Okay. Next is revenge. The character usually is willing to lose his own life if necessary, as long as he is able to murder someone who has wronged him. In Hamlet, it will be very easy for us to find such motivation. For the sixth is greed. This is a particular kind of motivation in the category of hope for rewards, which becomes an outstanding motive in many places. Shakespeare's Shakespeare's version of Venice affords a good example of a play in which greed operates as a central motive. And the last is jealousy. It is a kind of motive connecting to both love and the fear of failure. Jealousy operates as one of the strongest motives in all drama. Shakespeare's Othello is perhaps the most frequently cited example of a play in which the central character is motivated to action by way of his jealousy. Maybe IT enough. Back to the moderator.
Thanks to Khoirunnisa for the explanation, and then the next points will be explained by Dika. Dika, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. So now I will explain about the render personality. A playwright may choose to create a character with simple motives, but in general, character creation is more often equated with the complex human personality. And this complex character must be many aspects of the personality so that it resemble real life of people. And we must strive to arrive at an understanding of character as a complex human being with a motivational pattern rather than a single pattern. The next is caricature. A dramatic caricature is simply a physical interpretation of what has become the cartoonist line drawing. And instead of exaggerating someone's physical feature and turning that into a cartoon, the caricature becomes a living thing, such as a facial expression, movement, hand gesture, costume, props, and now combined to create a caricature for a performance on the stage. The next. Basically, some character don't change from begin until the end, and there are two kind of character, and there are two kind of character, active and passive, and the difference between those two are an active character is someone who actively chooses their path in the story, and the action that they take often leads the plot or at least contribute the continuation of the story, while a passive character is someone who is led by the storyline. So they are just react to a certain of plot or the storyline, and they didn't actively influence the story by their action. And the next is character determining plot. The essence of the drama is a plot, and the plot is developed by the character itself. and things have to happen in the drama because the character in drama are what they are, and the plot is driven by a character. And the next is number of character. In a play which run for several hours, only a limited number of the character that can be developed. So that's why the understanding of a play can be in the form of character counting and quick assessment of various balance between major and minor, female and male, and passive and active. So I think that's enough for me. Back to moderator.
Thanks to Dika for the explanation, and then the next points will be explained by Hana. Hana, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderators. Here I will explain the first is the basic character rules. The basic character rules in addiction to being lovers, wife, husband, friends, enemies, and so on. Characters in dramas have some specific labels that are used in analysis. As we have already discussed in the section on Greek tragedy, tragedy heroes are frequently mentioned. According to Aristotle, the tragedy hero is a nobleman who, through some flaw in his character, bring death or destruction upon himself or someone he loves. The protagonist is the main character in any drama plot. In the tragedies, hero and protagonist are interchangeable, as both terms describe the central characters. The antagonist is the protagonist's adversary. If the opposing force is not a person, we refer to it as the antagonistic force. Another important rule in the drama is that of the main character, friend or confidence, feminine and confident. Both the hero and heroine frequently have a confident and a confident surname because the hero and heroine confide in their friend, serving maid, or whoever fills the role. A confidence role is to provide the hero with someone to whom he can confide on stage, allowing the audience to learn about his true feelings. And the second is the character in time. Almost nothing about the character is known to us before he enters the stage. The giving of some background information about the character becomes one of the dramatic's primary priorities. As a result, the essence of Desdemona and Othello's courtship stone is their early utterance. In other words, we must see activity as well as learn from it. The same logic as underlies discussing the circumstance leading up to the place also applies to discussing upstage pathologies. When someone passes away, reports or sentinels always rush onto the platform to announce it. We saw this to be particularly true in Greek tragedy. Recall and Egon. The characters must be made in some way to resemble picture of actual people who exist in time. They are not born at the start of the play. They have a past. They also have a future in the same sense. When the character passes away in a way that is both honorable and humane, he continues to exist in our minds. If the character is still alive at the conclusion of the play, we should be able to logically speculate about what will happen to him in the future. As a result, we should constantly assess how well the dramatist has success in conveying the character's sense of time to us. And of course, this will be achieved by taking into account the devices of characterization which the playwright has used. Next, The third is the Pisces of Characterization. Every dramatist has at his fingertip a relatively large galaxy of differing devices of characterization. Some of these devices follow. The first is the appearance of the character. In the prologue or in the stage direction, the playwright often describes the character in a cycle sense. We learn from this stage direction what this character looks like and probably how he dresses when a character walks onto the stage. It is obvious from his appearance whether he is a meticulous or sloppy person, attractive or unattractive, old or young, small or large, etc. In other words, through the mere appearance of character, we look at our first understanding of him. The second is asides and soliloquies. All, all the put, all the further characterization are of course established through dialogue. We learn about the character as they speak, and specifically, we are apt to understand the character best when they speak in short asides or in longer soliloquies. On this occasion, the character is in effect telling the audience of his specific characteristic. If he is appealing, uh, he usually explains his appeal intention or at least his malicious hope. If a lover and he offers us putic statement of division, if a hero is torn between love and duty, he tells us about his conflict and his resulting agony. The use of soliloquies and asides is one of the most expert devices of characterization. It's all for me. Back to moderator.
Thanks to Hana for the explanation, and then the next points will be explained by Irma. Irma, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Next, for some device of characterization, there is dialogue between characters. Not only does the language of the character speaking alone characterize him, but his language when speaking to others also describes his personality. Next, hidden narration. The characters in the drama are never directly described by the playwright himself. They are still character description. It is having one character in a play narrate something about another character as it is impossible for a dramatist to give his direct comment. Next is language. The language of a character is very important to his personality attribute. Thus, in order to know more about the character, the way he speaks, and the expression he uses should always be our first concern. No doubt this is the most important aspect of characterization. Next is character in action. As the character become more involved in the action of the play and show their motivation, we naturally learn more about them. Our understanding of motivation lies at the heart of analysis. Next slide. Next is the development of the character. The main text when analyzing a character is to delineate and describe the character development in the drama. It's important to understand how the main character change, or if they don't, why they don't during the drama. The best way to analyze development is to proceed logically and chronologically through the event of the play. And the next, the character's relationship to other character. Part of character development is based on changing the nature of his relationship with other characters. The character's relationship with other characters appear both in the speech between them, speeches about one another, and most obviously in the action they share or cause one another to do. Thank you. Back to the moderator.
All right, thanks for the explanation. And then the next point is about the summary of approaching the play's character. So, as my friends mentioned before about the characters, the characteristic of the characters, so there are four major points that I took from this summary. So, the first one, students must be able to identify the character types such as protagonist, antagonist, confident, fool, wise man, and etc. Because once students able to identify the characters, it would be easier for students to analyze characters deep relationship and also the pattern in drama. And then the second one, explaining what happens to that character in the course of the play and then suggesting reasons for that action or motivation. In here, students must be able to explain about what happens to that character. And then in this part, students also ought to acknowledge about the reasons and also the motive behind the character's actions. And then the third point is isolating outstanding characteristic of the major characters. One is able to develop certain theories of meaning which are implicit in the play. In here, students should be able to understanding the role of the main characters or the major characters because this thing helps students to acknowledge about the theories or plot of the drama. Also, its function is to avoid audience from the being wandering discursively into the fruitless one. And then the last one is pay attention to the various devices of characterization from the from which the playwright, for etc., like love, hate, punishment, fear, reward. And in here, when a student or watch the play, they should analyze of the characterization based on the character's motives. And these things is the one who guides students least to devise of the characterization such as soliloquies, appearance, and so forth. Next slide, please. So the next point is about character examples. In here, I would like to explain about Othello. So the development of Othello based on Shakespeare's jealousy, his story began from heroic military leader at the beginning, but ended up to suicide. So here is the brief story about Othello. Uh, Othello becomes jealous and then murders his innocent wife, then commits suicide upon discovery of his mistake. And then Shakespeare described Othello as a middle-aged Negro Moor dressed in the costume of a superior soldier general and in early scenes having to do with the affairs of state, knowing her wife Desmenanda having an affair with Cassio, and then he got jealous and then murdered his innocent wife and commit suicide. Also, Othello characterized having an honor, dignity, and pride as a soldier, but those personalities are nothing because he threatened by one explode emotion, which is jealousy. And in here, jealousy considered as motive of Othello's action. And also, Othello is described as an active protagonist. And Shakespeare also described Othello having characterized by his language. He is he speaks in fancy words or at a great length, and also his language is always crude and also factual, because as we know that Othello is a soldier having a dignity, pride, and it makes him uh, described as a man of his word. Well, I think that's the explanation from me. For the next points will be explained by Rizkiki. Rizkiki, time is yours.
Okay, thank you to the moderator. So I will explain another example of the character. Here is the Willy Lowman. So Willy Lowman is an example of a tragic hero by Arthur Miller, and in appearance he is characterized by middle age with a job that takes its role both spiritually and physically. But he was a weak man filled with pride and unfulfilled dreams. In the drama, Willy ends his life, and this moment becomes the center of horror in the drama. And the reason why Willy ends his life because is he cannot face the world and his family, and he feels his life is failful, and also he feels alone. And in fact, he has a desire to succeed, and makes his family happy. And basically, Willy has started from the failure from the beginning of drama until the end of the drama, and his character is characterized by his own speech, not through his action, and he just let himself fall in a tragic sense when the drama ends. And in conclusion, Willy's characters is unrealistic both to himself and his world. Just like Othello, Willy is fed up with his painful life and ends unrealistically. And that's all from me. Back to the moderator.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. Well, I think that's all from our explanation and also our presentation. So as the conclusion that in order to understanding about the play or the drama, we need to understand about the characteristic of the characters itself. So I think that's enough. And thank you for your attention. Last word. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.